Welcome everyone to the Voices of the SDG16 Plus Stories for Global Action. This year's theme is Resilient Recovery through Local Action on SDG16 Plus. The impacts of COVID-19, I'll introduce myself first. I'm Kasia Slavner. I was a previous 2019 cohort member of the Voices of the SDG16 Plus, and I'm the founder of the Global Sunrise Project here in Toronto, Canada. The impacts of COVID-19 have presented many new challenges and threats to global peace. The pandemic has forced us to confront pre-existing and worsened inequalities and question how well our systems are working. A year and a half on, we're now tasked with rebuilding, adapting, and reimagining the potential for creating more peaceful, inclusive, and just societies. The Voices of the SDG16 Plus campaign is an incredible example of how civil society leaders are rising to the challenge of finding more sustainable solutions for their communities, nations, and global community. In order to build a more inclusive world, it's no secret that we really do need to include civil society in the decision-making process, especially around SDG 16, and collaborate with them to advance the 2030 agenda. This campaign is a space for the voices to share their stories and experiences, and for us listening, it's a chance to learn from their best practices and find ways to work in partnership with them to amplify the impacts of their work, the important work that they're doing. And this year, we're thrilled to present the work of 4 incredible new and familiar voices of the SDG 16 Plus. So before we introduce this year's cohort, I'll hand it over to Peter to briefly go over the run of show. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasia, for that great introduction. And it's an honor to co-moderate this session today with you. Please allow me to also welcome you all to this event. My name is Peter van Sluis. I'm the coordinator of the Civil Society Platform for Peace Building and State Building, which is one of the partner organizations supporting the Voices of SDG16 Plus. The Voices of SDG16 Plus is organized for the 3rd consecutive year, and it's supported by the following partners: the TAP Network, GPAC, Namati, Life and Peace Institute, Peace Direct, and World Vision. The event today will showcase the finalists of the 2021 edition of the Voices of SDG16 Plus, voices we feel to be amplified and to be heard in the context of the HLPF in New York. Before we start, allow me to mention a few housekeeping issues. For those who are not speaking, please keep your microphone on mute. And please be informed that this session will be recorded, but it's only recorded for reporting purposes. You are invited to share your reflections and questions in the chat, and you can also ask live questions when we come to the Q&A segment of the program. Now, on the program, we will first feature the 4 2021 finalists and have them, after the video is shown, speak briefly on the video submitted. After which we will also hear from Voices alumni, which are 2 representatives and finalists from previous editions of the Voices of SDG16 Plus campaign. You as audience, as said, will be given an opportunity to speak and ask questions during the final segment of the program, after we will bring the event to a close. So now, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our first finalist, who is Mr. Mohammed Ashmal Ramya, who is the Executive Director of the Afghans for Progressive Thinking from Afghanistan. And we will show his video first, after which he will speak to his video.
I'm Ajmal Ramyar, the Executive Director of Afghans for Progressive Thinking Organization. Afghans for Progressive Thinking Organization is the largest youth-led organization that works to promote youth leadership, education, and culture of peace in Afghanistan. Since its inception in 2010, APT activities have impacted and inspired over 40,000 youth and children to build a vision for a just and inclusive society and work as a peace builder, realizing this vision and contributing to positive changes in the community. APT is working on SDGs, particularly SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institution through debate program, leadership development program, Mehrabanan School in Mazar Sharif, which is established for internally displaced children, and the annual Afghan Youth Representative to the United Nations. Since 2018, APT selected the first, second, and third Afghan Youth Representative who spoke at the United Nations Security Council about the role of youth in peace and security and shared their concern and challenges to the world leaders.
Currently, APT runs 35 debate clubs in 35 public and private universities in Afghanistan. Through these debate clubs, we help youth to become critical thinkers and challenge the extremist beliefs around them. When Afghanistan was locked down in the early 2020 because of the novel coronavirus, we did not stop, but continued our activities online. We organized online debate training, practice sessions, and competitive debate rounds among students from various universities. And I can say that for us at APT, lockdown was more like an opportunity than a limitation.
For the sole purpose of advocating for peace and security and shaping a network of elites, Afghans for Progressive Thinking organization organized the first ever Youth Jirga in 2018, hosting representatives from 34 provinces of Afghanistan. This helped the deprived portion of the community to share their comments, wants, and needs through briefing a policy.
In our leadership development programs at APT, we help Afghan youth develop their leadership skills and become effective influencers in Afghan community, because we believe in the potential and capacity of Afghan youth as change makers and tomorrow's leaders. And it is now on Afghan youth to work for peace and sustainable development in Afghanistan. In 2019, when the pandemic started and people had to maintain the social distance and Afghanistan was locked down, we conducted our sessions virtually, and we use this as an opportunity to increase the number of participants in our leadership development programs. Previously, we could only recruit 20 students, but in the lockdown, we recruited 30 students for the leadership development programs who completed 30 sessions with national and international instructors.
In this critical situation in which we are living now, peace is our first priority. And students know its value more than anyone else does. Because in this bloody war, we are losing our schools, fellow students, and our professors. I still remember the time in harsh moments. The gunmen attacked Kabul University and killed 22 students and professors, including my close friends, Rahed, Suhaila, and Hidayat, who were a member of Kabul University Debate Club. They believe in peace and work tirelessly for a peaceful Afghanistan. We do not give up and continue our efforts for promoting culture of peace and justice by working with students at Kabul University's Debate Club, established by Afghans for Progressive Thinking.
My name is Shaista Rahmani. I'm originally from Iraq, a western province, and now I'm studying at Kabul University. I have been actively participating in APT programs since 2019. APT programs have assisted me develop my leadership and communication skills and stand for my rights in a conservative Afghan society.
Congratulations, Asmal, and may I now invite you to switch on your video and speak to the submission that you have entered for the competition.
Thank you so much, Mr. Peter. Thank you so much, Ms. Kasha. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the participants who joined us around the globe. I would like to thank all the organizers of the Voices of the SDGs for arranging today's event and supporting the civil society organization and showcasing its work to the globe. My name is Ajmal Ramyar. I'm the Executive Director of Afghans for Progressive Thinking organization. I'm leading this organization since 2019. Our work focuses on Afghanistan. Since the establishment of EPT in 2010, our activities impacted around 40,000 youth and children across Afghanistan. Continued war and pandemic had adversely impacted people's behaviors toward each other, resulting the impact that most of the Afghan youths divided along in different social economic lines. Afghan youths and students more than ever need a flourishing space where they can build tolerance and respect for each other and live in harmony with each other. Through our activities in EPT, we aim to build a bridge among youth of different backgrounds and ethnicities. Despite the challenges due to violence and pandemic that were posed to us, EPT keeps organizing virtual and online events in 2020 and 2021. We organize in-person panel discussion and open events among youths from different parts of Afghanistan. Students reported that the EPT activities and its existence gave them sense of belonging and support. Since the majority of the population of Afghanistan are youth, they need support, they need someone that they should rely on. Youth in provinces feel being marginalized and left behind in the most important democratic process, especially in Afghan peace negotiation. They think themselves that we are being a part of this peace negotiation. EPT helps to keep youth from different backgrounds and different ethnicities to include their message and concerns into important process that will impact their futures. Through our different activities in EPT, we include youths, we gather youths that they should work on SDGs, particularly SDG16, peace, justice, and a strong institution. We do our work through debate programs, leadership development programs. We established a school for by the name of Mehrabanan School for internally displaced children, and also initiated the annual Afghan Youth Representative Program since 2018. We selected the first, second, and third Afghan youth representative to the United Nations, who are the example of thousands of other youths in Afghanistan who spoke about the concerns, challenges, and the suggestions of youth, and they presented of the world leader in the United Nations Security Council. When Afghanistan went to lockdown in the early 2020 because of the novel coronavirus, there was ongoing peace negotiation where the security situation was not good. We could not able to have our physical activities in provinces. We continued our activities online. We organized online trainings, practice sessions, debate tournaments. We gathered youth perspective toward peace negotiation, and we deliver it to the government and also to the international community. In our leadership development programs at EPT, we help and develop leadership skills and become effective influence in the Afghan society. We believe in the capacity and potential of Afghan youths as change makers and tomorrow's leaders. Thank you so much. I will be looking forward if you can have any suggestion, any questions for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ajmal, and we might come back to you in the Q&A segment. I will now transition over back to Kasia. Kasia, floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter. I'm happy to introduce our next finalist, Ms. Justine Kwachunugum-Kumche from Women in Alternative Action in Cameroon. So Justine, if you're able to, or I believe we'll show your video first, and then we'll invite you to speak.
While Cameroon is one of Cameroon's leading NGOs which enables effective human rights protection and promotion, peace and security is one of her priority areas of intervention in Cameroon and the Central African sub-region. Since the outbreak of the Anglophone crisis in 2016, tension has been heightened by the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is against this backdrop that while Cameroon has harnessed her efforts in the implementation and the localization of SDG16+ on peace, justice, and inclusive societies in Cameroon. What is WA's niche in these processes? Inclusiveness. Evidence show that peace processes that are more inclusive stand a better chance of success. And that is why WA is leaving no one behind in her implementation processes. WA is engaging with community authorities, women and girls, men and boys, youth, civil society organizations, the media, the government, and other stakeholders in her implementation and localization process of SDG 16 Plus in Cameroon. Sustaining peace through community engagement is as well her strategy. Through this, WA has been able to build youth peace clubs, peace champions, and community change agents in the implementation and the localization of SDG 16 Plus in Cameroon.
Our successes include a voluntary national review carried out by WA Cameroon and GPAC in partnership with other local stakeholders in 2019, which contains recommendations for other stakeholders to localize SDG 16 in their various communities. WA Cameroon has been localizing the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security and Resolution 2250 on youth peace and security to accelerate the peace building process in their various communities. WA Cameroon has reduced material resources to be used by individuals, civil society organizations, and anybody interested to continue to carry out trainings on peace building and conflict resolution and prevention. This process has been faced with challenges such as the insecurity caused by the conflict in the northwest and southwest regions, conflict in the 3 northern regions of Cameroon, and in the east region. The outbreak of the coronavirus has also contributed to slowing down the process, and lastly, the limited resources hinders the localization of SDG 16 Plus in the hinterlands of Cameroon.
We believe that progress on SDG 16 Plus will hamper progress on all other goals, as well as in achieving Cameroon's Vision 2035. Without peace, justice, and strong institutions, there will be no quality education, and the reduction of hunger, poverty, and women's empowerment will not be achieved. Our agenda has been innovative in its approach and supports local peace structures. We are building youth community connectors of peace by offering them income generation support as alternatives to guns. We therefore call on stakeholders to consider supporting local peace efforts for sustainable peace nationally and globally. Peace, my agenda. We love SDG 16 Plus.
Our voices for peace.
Peace, our agenda. Peace, my agenda. Peace, my agenda. I am connected for peace.
Congratulations, Justine. I would like to invite you to share your 3-minute intervention if you're able to turn on your video and audio. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Hello. Good morning. Hello.
We're able to hear you.
Okay. Are you getting me, please?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. Yeah. I would like to start by, my name is Alemji Hildi from Women in Alternative Action, WA Cameroon, based in Cameroon. And I'm here in behalf of Madam Justine Kumche, who is presently sick and at the hospital.
I'm so sorry.
So on behalf of my organization, I work to support initiatives that promote peace building and conflict prevention. On behalf of my organization and the communities we work with, Thank you for the opportunity to submit a video this year and for selecting the video. And it is now a pleasure for me and for us and an honor to be here today to share the experiences of our organization in localizing SDG16+ in Cameroon. During this localization process, I would like to raise 3 points. The first point is that it is important in our localization process, we include women and youth, because this is part of the recommendations that we got from the shadow report that we published in 2019. In effect, we are localizing the United Nations Security Council resolutions 1325 on women, peace and security, and resolution 2250 on youth, peace and security, because these are the people who are more affected in conflict situations. So we are working with them by raising awareness and building their capacities in promoting and localizing SDG16+. Like I said, it's part of the recommendations we got from the shadow report we published in 2019. The second important point is the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. It has had a devastating effect in Cameroon, and we are still suffering from the effects of that crisis. So during this process, we advocate for using SDG16 as a framework to bolster infrastructures for peace, so that they can provide immediate and long-term people-centered recovery at both the national and the community level. So we are reaching into the communities during this period of the COVID-19 pandemic. And lastly, there is a crisis that is ongoing in Cameroon since 2016, referred to as the Anglophone crisis. It is happening in the two Anglophone regions, that is the Northwest regions and the Southwest regions of Cameroon. This crisis has brought a lot of untold damages to vulnerables, the youth, the women. And in this context of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are using SDG16 on peace, justice, and inclusive societies as a tool to promote peace and to prevent the escalation of further violence by raising awareness on the importance of localizing SDG16+ and by building the capacities of youth. We have activities that we're doing in the Northwest and Southwest regions, to raise the capacity of youth in income generating activities as an alternative to violence. We also have workshops that we have been organizing. We have events like the National Youth Camp for Peace. We are involving youth. So in a nutshell, we are including more of women and youth in this implementation and the localization of SDG16+. And before I finish, I would like to thank NAP for the valuable initiative and the opportunity for giving us a chance the second time to raise our voices on the importance of SDG16+. We also like to use this opportunity to thank IFA Civic and GPAC especially for making our voice, our actions and our voices visible in the implementation and the localization of SDG16+. And to say that it is a continuous process and we are not relating our efforts to include all stakeholders and work also to complement the actions of government in these processes. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, LMG, for stepping in for Justine and for sharing the work of Women in Alternative Action. And Justine, we're all wishing you a safe, speedy, and healthy recovery. And congratulations to the both of you and your incredible organization. I'd like to pass it over to Peter to introduce our next finalist.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kasia, and same holds good for me. Best wishes to Justine and a speedy recovery. For our third finalist, we move over to Palestine. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Azil Ibrahim from the International Legal Foundation, but we will first look at the video as submitted by them.
A 12-year-old boy was hit by a car while riding his bike, yet he was the one arrested, spending 63 days in detention. The International Legal Foundation fought for and won his release, but these injustices are happening all over Palestine and around the world, and the stakes are higher than ever, with COVID-19 still a very serious threat. We make justice a reality for poor people by fighting to guarantee high-quality legal representation for everyone arrested or detained, Around the world, we provide criminal defense services and build sustainable, effective legal aid institutions. The work of public defenders is key to protecting children and youth, who are especially susceptible to trauma in the criminal justice system. Our work in Palestine centers on early intervention, mediation, and diversion. In Palestine, approximately 50% of the population is youth, and the majority of our clients are juveniles. The biggest challenge Palestine has faced was in getting justice for children during the pandemic. Poverty increased overall, so fewer families could afford lawyers to represent their children, and more children were being arrested for breaking COVID-related restrictions. To address these challenges, the ILF sent letters to the President of the State of Palestine, Ministry of Justice, High Judicial Council, and others, advocating for all people in detention to reach the maximum level in protecting citizens' rights, and to reduce COVID-19 transmission among prison inmates. Also, we coordinated with other justice stakeholders like prosecutors, working together to get children out of detention. We held training sessions to raise capacity and ensure our lawyers provide quality representation under performance standards. Furthermore, we conducted several training sessions to raise the capacity of Palestinian lawyers and enhance their awareness of legal aid. To further aid reforms in Palestine, the ILF invited 20 key stakeholders and influencers from Palestine to attend a special convening of the 4th International Legal Aid Conference ILAC to support access to justice for all amidst COVID-19. The conference was held virtually. With legal aid practitioners invited from over 100 countries, this event offered a unique opportunity for Palestinian participants to share their experiences and best practices with colleagues from around the world.
Congratulations, Azil. Can I give you the floor to speak to the video as submitted?
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Kasha. Thank you so much for having me and for showcasing the International Legal Foundation's work alongside these other amazing individuals and organizations. My name is Asil Ibrahim, and I am the Communications Officer at the International Legal Foundation in Palestine. At the ILF, SDG16 is core to our work. We believe that anyone arrested has the right to a lawyer to protect their rights. In Palestine, our team of 24 defense lawyers and staff, with 4 offices in Ramallah, Jenin, Nablus, and Hebron, have been working to advance SDG16 across the West Bank by expanding access to legal aid for vulnerable populations, especially children. In the COVID-19 pandemic, our lawyers have been fighting around the clock to get people out of dangerous detention centers. Here in Palestine, where almost 50% of the population is under 18, this has meant fighting for the release of hundreds of children. Children, especially poor children, face many challenges when in contact with the criminal justice system. These challenges, which include lack of access to counsel, pretrial detention, discrimination, coercion, and abuse, have only been compounded by the pandemic as more children fall into poverty and crackdowns on COVID-19 restrictions put children behind bars. Justice for children means not only ensuring quality legal aid representation in court, but providing comprehensive representation to help kids get back to their families, continue their education, and receive the health and social support services they need to stay out of the criminal justice system. Our lawyers have been trained by juvenile justice experts from around the world. We push for methods like mediation, diversion, and alternatives to incarceration at every turn. And we litigate to change laws and practices that are not in the best interest of children. Through our unique approach, we collaborate our local government, mental health centers, educational centers, and other justice stakeholders to drive meaningful criminal justice reforms. And at the international level, we share our expertise in regional and international fora. For example, in addition to the International Legal Aid Conference mentioned in the video, we recently collaborated with our ILF colleagues in Tunisia to train a delegation of Libyan defense lawyers in juvenile representation. as we collectively work toward a more peaceful, just, and inclusive society. The ILF is proud to be fighting in Palestine and around the world to ensure that justice for all includes justice that's appropriate, meaningful, and accessible for every child. Thank you.
Thank you, Azil, and once again, congratulations on your selection. It's now my pleasure to hand over back to Kasia.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce our fourth and final finalist, Mr. Leon Willems from Free Press Unlimited in the Netherlands. We will share the video first, and then you'll be invited to speak.
Access to information has proven to be life-saving and crucial in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic all over the world, including in Africa. Our program funded by the European Union, COVID-19 Response in Africa, Together for Reliable Information, is supporting media organizations in more than 17 countries across the sub-Saharan Africa.
Wasikilizaji wapenzi, ya mjambo na karibu kuitegea sikio kipindi pamoja tupiganishe corona.
Quand les informations ont circulé sur la pandémie à coronavirus, c'était une panique générale au sein de la communauté. Les gens pensaient que c'était la fin du monde et il y avait une peur générale.
Ici chez nous au Sud Kivu, à Bukavu, là nous sommes en République démocratique du Congo. D'abord que la pandémie était mal comprise par la communauté parce que bon nombre de gens pensaient que c'était une maladie de blancs, c'était une maladie des riches. Nous travaillons avec les radios rurales dans 5 territoires dans l'objectif de faire parvenir la bonne information, l'information fiable dans la communauté. Nous faisons des sensibilisations à travers la production des émissions avec les experts en santé, bien sûr. Nous encadrons les jeunes reporters dans les territoires pour qu'ils aient en tout cas l'accès à l'information et ils arrivent à publier sur les réseaux sociaux les informations par rapport à la réalité sur la pandémie en coronavirus.
Avant cette formation, étant jeune journaliste, on avait du mal à répondre à certaines questions relatives à Covid-19. Mais présentement, on peut y répondre facilement pendant l'émission.
Parmi les défis, premièrement, il y a cette communauté qui croit beaucoup plus aux rumeurs parce que c'est pas tout de suite qu'on va leur dire que voilà, Corona est là, c'est un danger sur la santé. Deuxièmement, par rapport à notre catégorie, notre groupe cible, c'est constitué beaucoup plus de jeunes, des femmes ainsi que de personnes marginalisées. Et là, il nous faut beaucoup plus de temps pour leur montrer que voilà, Corona est là et il nous faut l'implication de tout le monde afin de se protéger contre Covid-19.
Access to reliable information is often overlooked in the COVID-19 response. All over the world, journalists have been restricted in their service to communities. People trust independent media, and government needs to support this linking point for progress in addressing this pandemic.
Congratulations, Leon, and you're welcome to take the floor for your intervention.
Thank you, Kasia, and welcome to all of you from wherever you are in the world. I just want to add a few notions about the situation that independent media and journalists have been in since the start of the COVID pandemic. And I think it's important to highlight that. First of all, since the outbreak of the pandemic, we've been monitoring that there have been a lot of legal measures taken against journalists to report independently about COVID-19 under the pretext of reporting about fake news, etc. In fact, movement and restrictions of journalists have been implemented by legal measures. We've also seen an enormous increase in intimidation and incidents related to violence against journalists across the world, actually, but also in Africa, also in Asia and Latin America. And I think that there's a specific issue that is close to our heart, which is the enormous violent actions that have taken place against women journalists, which have really doubled or tripled in some countries. What is also important to note about COVID-19 is that for reasons that could be justified, procurement measurements or regulations that are involved in making sure governments are transparent about the procurement of assets for combating the pandemic. In many cases, these procedures and transparency regulations were dismantled in order to ensure speedy recovery and speedy access to respirators, etc. And unfortunately, we see that access to information questions that were voiced by civil society and journalists have been countered by governments. They've been neglected. So there's an enormous decrease of access to information also on how governments are spending money during the crisis. I think that the violence and the limitations of access to information are both very counterproductive for the Sustainable Development Agenda. Free Press Unlimited has worked with partners in Colombia, in Pakistan, and Indonesia, as well as in Africa, to monitor progress on public access to information. And the results are negative, actually. And I think that one of the calls that I wanted to do on behalf of all of you is that we really encourage the HLPF and also the UN member states to take more note of what civil society is doing to monitor infringements on the reporting, the VNR reporting that is happening. We see actually in the case of the safety of journalists that almost no government is really reporting about it in the VNR process. So we think there's a real need for more action to include civil society data. There are many, many, many very good, productive civil society organizations that are monitoring aspects of the SDG agenda, and they're being neglected by their governments. We really need more inclusion of civil society in the SDG process, and we should call together on member states to do more in this regard. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon, for your clear calls to action. I would like to transition over to the Voices alumni. So as an alumni of the Voices program, I can say that one of the most valuable experiences for me has been the ongoing engagement with my peers from the alumni group. And I see some of them here with me today. And I would really like to invite two of my colleagues to share their reflections on some of the experiences they've had staying engaged with the Voices community. Firstly, we have a video from Bianca Pabutoy from the Philippines, as she was not able to be present today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am Bianca Pabotoy, Women, Peace, and Security Project Officer at the Center for Peace Education, Miriam College from the Philippines. In 2019, I chanced upon a competition, one that can showcase my office's work on the SDGs. That was the Voices of SDG16+. While I was very familiar with SDG16, the Plus was a very interesting addition to this goal. An addition that rings true to my own work, We Peace, which has helped form women peacekeeping teams across communities in the Philippines. So that's SDG16 plus 5, among others. Being in the middle of the HLPF in New York was, of course, a very exciting experience for me, but what was even a greater surprise was meeting other members of civil society working on SDG16 plus in different contexts across different countries. 2019 was sort of a chance for me to, one, be able to showcase what we are doing to stakeholders, international organizations, government, and other members of civil society, like what we're doing today. And two, to sow seeds of partnership in the Voices alumni, working on similar issues to ours, such as peace building and conflict transformation, but also learning of the many more contexts of peace, conflict, conciliation, progress, and so much more of communities I may not be so familiar with. The seed has only been growing since then, as the Voices campaign is one that is unique simply because we have all kept in touch through the Voices Alumni Network. This has been a means for learning exchange of what we can replicate and what's been done, and where we can be inspired by each other for our own work. And of course, this also fosters a sort of global cooperation amongst the alumni, even if we are kilometers apart. My participation as one of the Voices did not end in 2019, but instead grew from there. The Voices campaign is truly one that does not just happen once a year during the HLPF, but is actually alive through our email threads, messages, and calls, and just us keeping in check with each other. Because in a time when the issues we're trying to fight for is often clouded by an even more pressing concern like COVID, the Voices offer a sense of hope for the continued work towards the achievement of SDG 16+, a hope that is based on what we're doing on the ground and based on experiences that are happening in real time. And these are very important more than ever as we rebuild a new normal. It's very important for us to keep reminding government stakeholders that it's even more important to be wary of 16+ in the coming years as we reopen our borders and make new plans following the lockdown and quarantine in 2019. So thank you very much, and I hope everyone is safe.
Next, I'd like to call on one of my other colleagues. We have Umulker Harun Mohammed from the Kesho Alliance in Kenya. So Umi, you can have the floor.
I thank you, Kasha. Thank you. Sorry, I'm experiencing internet issues. I've tried both data and Wi-Fi. I don't know what's happening, but I hope I'm audible enough. Thank you so much for giving me the floor. And I would just like to everybody has said regarding the opportunities that came out of being one of the alumni of the HLPF. In 2019, when we submitted our video, we really wanted to get our story out there, looking at the fact that we are a local grassroots organization in Kenya, Garissa County specifically. So one of the aims and the goals that we had when we were submitting that video was then to switch to a wider network to see how we can share our works from the grassroots level and link up with the international discussions and the high level discussions. And this really came through for us because immediately after we came back from New York, we had a meeting with the county stakeholders in my county, Garissa County, and they were happy that we were able to present the work that we do in Garissa, at such a platform. We are one of the implementers of the Garissa County Action Plan, and I'm talking about Garissa County because if you look at the challenges we've had in terms of violent extremism in 2015. Garissa University was attacked by Al-Shabaab and we lost 147 young people. So this is why our organization was formed, to see then if we could bring young people to come together and talk about peace building and talk about bringing harmony into our society. Insecurity had really increased after the attack, and there's been a lot of narratives going on around the county. So when the Garissa County Action Plan was formed, one of the pillars actually has a component of youth, and that's what we're implementing. So when we presented this work at the high level political forum, we really got to get the attention of the right people, because there are a lot of organizations working on peace building, but who are not in touch with them. So this really gave us the exposure. We're able to link our work with other stakeholders and like-minded people at the community level. So this was an amazing platform that we got. And I also met, I think, Life and Peace Institute through this platform. And I was able to link up with the local office, and I'm happy to announce that we are actually going to implement a project with them, because we submitted a proposal together to the European Union as one of our donors. And I thought Life and Peace would be the best group to work with, because I've met them at the high level forum, I've interacted with the local office. So the networks from this platform has been amazing, and it honestly gave our work credibility. And I keep sharing the SDG platform to other young people to tell them, if you're into the peace building programs, this is the right space. And I'm a bit disappointed that I don't see one of our voices in the 2021 stories. I don't know if I'd missed any, but I'm sure in the coming years we'll definitely have more young people from Garissa County and Wajir and Mandera, because these are hotspot areas, extremists and extremist groups who are actively working to cause fear and terror in our society. So I would really give a big shout out to this platform, and I'm sure anybody who's joining this year's dialogue would benefit immensely. And as alumni, we've talked about how we can work together, and I know we have a WhatsApp group, so I'm sure we would bring our works together to strengthen our efforts. Thank you so much, Kasha.
Thank you so much, Umi, for sharing your updates. I'd like to hand it over to Peter to run our Q&A session.
Thank you, Kasia, and my pleasure to do so. And once again, congratulations to all the finalists. And in follow-up what Umi said, maybe for all who are listening in, you might already want to grab that camera and start filming for next year's edition, because this edition will be followed by a 4th edition, I'm sure. So we can already start working on that. This is the time for you as participants to share your reflections, observations, or any questions you might have to the 2021 finalists. So floor is yours. I saw one comment by Rose Otieno. I don't know whether you want to speak to that, Rose, on the concerns that you shared with Leon Willems, whether you want to take the floor and speak to that.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good evening.
Hi there, please go ahead.
Am I there? Yes, yeah, the simple comment I want to share, I know many others would want to come in, is that just before this session, we had a meeting of over 220 CSOs and NGOs in Uganda, led by the NGO Forum, talking about issues of COVID, the involvement of civil society, or the lack of, and so many other issues. And one outstanding concern that we've had is the way that the COVID SOPs have been implemented in the country, sometimes with brutality, but also the very little room that is given to the CSOs to participate at the various task forces. We have one at the national level, others at the district. A few districts have a few representatives, but not all. But the biggest concern that the group had was that during the first lockdown last year, when the COVID struck, the government, led by the president, called out for support, and a lot of donations were given in kind and in cash, but amounts were being read. We don't know whether all or not, but there were huge amounts. But now accountability issues, we don't get feedback. And right now with our second wave, the Delta 2, is it? We are having lots of challenges with a lot of the patients needing oxygen cylinders, which were supposed to have been bought like last year, have not been bought. So those concerns are there. And I was surprised to hear the issue of accountability by governments coming across. You know, when we are back home here, we think it's only our problem. So we really have a lot to do. And I think as partners in SDG, maybe here is where we can have a stronger voice together. I will stop at that. Thank you. I'm based in Uganda, representing the GPAC Eastern and Central Africa Region Liaison Office.
Thank you, Rose, for that intervention. Leon, maybe can I ask you to respond and to expand maybe a little bit on the points that you made earlier about how the HLPF should be bringing on board voices like we have been showcasing today as manifests of civil society in the context of the high-level political forum.
Yes, well, I can confirm what Rose is saying. First of all, I'd like to share with you, but we haven't published yet, a study that we've done into procurement issues related to the COVID pandemic, and it shows that this is really a global phenomenon. And as I mentioned and stressed, I mean, in some cases, governments have done the dispensation of lengthy procurement procedures for good in order to be able to buy equipment quickly, etc. But at the same time, you see there's a lot of corruption involved. There's a lot of corporate misuse of financing that was done under the COVID, let's say, extraordinary measures. And I think, first of all, that this dispensation of procurement transparency should return as quickly as possible. But secondly, it really shows that there's been a lack of accountability. And one of the things that we are also seeing in the voluntary national reports that we've commissioned in Colombia, Pakistan, and Indonesia is that the information related to access to information and the safety of journalists has been neglected in the official VNR report. And so we feel that the shadow reports that are done by many civil society organizations are really super important and should actually, I mean, in our case, we've made a plea to the group of Friends of Safety of journalists that exist in New York to fund more civil society organizations, especially locally, to have more, let's say, productive discussions between civil society and governments. In fact, in Indonesia, for example, the Ministry of Development has accepted the inputs from the Association of Journalists related to infringements on the Target 1610. But then the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who's responsible for the submission of the VNR report, has taken these data out of the official report of the country. And so it's also for UNDESA to really think about how can statistics that are submitted by civil society be incorporated in the overall measurement, because there is a real attempt to neglect some data that are actually factually true, first of all, but also relevant in terms of development. And I think jointly what we're saying is a decrease of inclusion of civil society as a result of the pandemic. And sometimes maybe for understandable reasons, but I think there should be a real repair issue on that.
Thank you, Leon. There's one follow-up question for you in the chat. You mentioned the study. Can you inform the audience when that study is expected to be released?
The procurement study is uploaded to the SDG16 Plus website. Let me see if I will try to include that in the chat, the hyperlink to that. Okay. If not, I promise it will be on the website of Free Press Unlimited, and I will put that in the website in the chat as well.
Perfect, thanks. Let me then move over to Khaled. I see your hand up, Khaled. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks so much, Peter and Kasia, for facilitating this discussion. Hello, everyone. This is Khaled Imam from Egypt. And my organization, Justice College, actually CSPPS member, also GPAC member, and we are SDG16 Voices alumni in the last year edition. So congrats for all our colleagues who will join this program this year. I heard a lot of amazing work today, which is really optimistic. And actually, before I ask my question, like as also one of our colleagues mentioned, this January start. It's not ended with this event. It will start, and one of the big advantage for us as civil society organization from the SDG16 that we were part of the alumni. We really had the opportunity to exchange and talk and share our challenges. Think about joint resources with the other alumni from all around the world, which was great. Small group of civil society organization, but all of them amazing, covering different parts of the world, working in different issues, all related to just an inclusive society. So I think this was a big advantage, and I really encourage all of you to be active part of this group, and I'm very excited to meet you all. I have a question for Ajamal from Afghanistan, and I heard the amazing work that your organization doing in a very difficult situation like Afghanistan. And I have a question, it's a little bit political, but it's related to you. So now, after the U.S. withdraw from Afghanistan, now I'm based here in Washington, D.C., and there's a lot of discussion about if this will be negative or positive. But my question to you, what, as from the youth perspective, what do you see like opportunities for young people now to engage or to lead peace building processes after the U.S. withdraw? Do you think that young peace builders, civil society organization will be able to fill the gaps that this withdrawal might affect in Afghanistan? And what do you see the priority right now? What's the priority for your organization, other civil society organization after this withdrawal? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khaled. It's nice to hear from you. Currently, as everyone knows, that during the past, from 2020 since till now, the situation is different. Like no one can predict what's happening, especially after the announcement of the US withdrawal. The situations get worse. So currently, there's a moment of both fear and hope for Afghan people because Afghan people struggled for the past 20 years. They are hopeful for the peace negotiation. They seize the future that they do not want to lose the achievements of the 20 years, because in the last 20 years, so many achievements have been made in Afghanistan, especially in terms of education, in terms of inclusion of youth, inclusion of women in decision-making process. But unfortunately, in the past 3 and 4 months after the announcements of the Taliban and US withdrawals, the level of violence has increased. So the civil society organization, the civil activists, the journalists have been targeted by the unknown governments. Unfortunately, the Afghan government could not stop this. The Afghan civil society organization is also, they lost their hope, especially for us working in a situation where you cannot guarantee that if you're working with the people, with the youths in the rural and urban provinces, because sometimes we wanted to hear the voices of youths across different provinces, but unfortunately we cannot go there. Our colleagues in the provinces, they are receiving threats from gunmen people, so they are fearing of this situation. But beside that, there is much hope for peace, because after the peace negotiation, we still see some gaps in the inclusion of the Afghan negotiation team to with the Taliban. But still, the Afghan civil society organizations are pushing the Afghan government that they should include more youths. They should share, they should hear the concerns of youth. We as a civil society organization, we could not stop our work. We still working online. We gather voices of youth from across Afghanistan through our debate programs, through our leadership programs. We recently selected, we are in the process of selection of the fourth Afghan youth representative. This representative will be the voices of hundreds and thousands of other youths that he or she can deliver the voices of youth, the concerns of youths toward Afghan government, toward the international community, and toward those who are in the policymakers. So still sometimes the situation gets too much worse, and no one knows that what's happening, because in this critical situation, you cannot pretend that if I go and advocate for my rights, if I advocate for the YPS and WPS agenda, but you need someone that should be behind you. So unfortunately, in the current situation, the Afghan government, the civil society, the international community is still negotiating to push UN agencies, to push policy level organization that they should include youth. The youth should not be marginalized. But now, what's happening right now? Because in the one hand, the Taliban says that the youth Taliban should withdraw Afghanistan, but beside that, they are killing Afghan people. They are killing Afghan youths in provinces. So you do not know what they really want. So what are their concepts? So until that the peace negotiation should start again in Doha, once the Afghan negotiation team should sit with the Taliban and hear what are their amends, what are their wants from Afghan government, and beside that, Afghan government also do not want that the achievements of 20 years should be undergained in this situation.
Peter, if I can ask a follow-up question in 30 seconds, please. Yeah, thanks so much, Jamal. This really is very helpful. I just have a follow-up question. You spoke about peace negotiation right now and the Afghan government and all this discussion that's going on in Doha and other places. Do you think like young people like your organization or other organization are included in these negotiations? Like what we have seen here in the Middle East and situation in Libya, and also the negotiations that are going on in Berlin and in Geneva, that unfortunately there is not enough, and we can say there is no representation for young people in these processes. So military leaders, government officials, UN agencies, and member states are talking together, but really not yet young people are part of this process. So I don't know what the situation in Afghanistan is. It different?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's the same situation. I think the context is a bit maybe different, because most of the youths are still, they see themselves marginalized. We know that in the peace negotiation team, we cannot include more youths, more women, but there should be someone who can represent youth, who can represent women, who should be in the situation where they spent with the youth, they spent their lives within Afghanistan. But unfortunately, in the first negotiation team, which was announced by the government, the youths were not involved. We had 2 or 3 youths, but that unfortunately they could not represent most of the youth. They could not present youths from rural and urban areas. So we know that it's complicated for the Afghan government to include more youths, but there should be someone from the civil society organization. There should be someone who should be involved with the youths, who know youth more better. But unfortunately, still there is a gaps that most of the civil society organization are pushing the Afghan government, pushing the civil society organization that while the next round of the negotiation is starting, that there should be some amendment in the negotiation team. Women, youth should be included. If they are not included, unfortunately, there is no guarantee for both Afghan government and the Taliban side that maybe some of the achievements youth should be undertaken. And also most of the youths, most of the women, still civil society organizations are having some conversation. They are having some consultation meetings within provinces. But unfortunately, what Afghan government, what civil society organization wants before the negotiations start, they need a ceasefire, because without ceasefire, unfortunately, nor the government, nor the Afghan people, nor us, no one can reach out to the provinces which are under control of Taliban, because we see that most of youths, most of Afghan women, they are living there. So their voices should be heard. The voices of war victims should be heard. So it's unfortunately hard in the current situation where there is ongoing war. The negotiation is mean nothing.
Thank you, Asmal, for that elaborate intervention, and wishing you all the best. And we stand ready to support you in your efforts in bringing youth and also women into the peace negotiations in Afghanistan.
Thank you so much.
I see a comment by Bridget. Bridget, do you want to come in from Nairobi, Kenya? Did you have a question? I see you're listing your name in the chat. Just wondering. If not, then I'll go over to Emran Mohammed Noor. You said that you have something that you want to bring in.
Yes, I have, sir.
Please go ahead.
Can I? Okay. Hello to everyone all around the globe that we are joining in our meeting, and congratulations to my to Ajmal Ramyar, and I want to tell something to Ajmal John, my bro. I am still proud to all Afghans that they fight like these situations for youths and to have their voices on international stage, especially in this COVID-19 pandemic situation in Afghanistan, insurgency, terrorism, and lots of problems. But beside all of these things, there still have their voices for youths, for Afghans, for civilians. I appreciate all these things that they're done by their groups and teams. And I'm sure that Afghans, as I'm also a youth and I'm a student in university, I'm sure that we will become together and we will become groups and we will become more stronger, and we will continue to our commitment to our society against Taliban, against foreigners that they want to destroy our country, like our neighbors. I don't want to mention them because of some politic reasons, but they should know that we are a stand against them. We will become united, more united, and we become groups and stand against all of our enemies, whoever it be. We will stand against all of them, and we will take a part in progress of our future. And I am sure, 100%, I'm sure that we will do some great things that the world will appreciate us. That's all.
Thank you, Imran, for that expression of sympathy and support, and looking forward to hear more from you. Any other questions from participants in the call before I circle back to the finalists?
Hi. Hello.
Yes, Bridget, please go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Bridget Faida from Consolation East Africa. We are based here in Nairobi. Our organization has recently been handling cases. Okay, we are mostly on the gender aspects of human rights. That's what we usually make awareness on that. But recently, okay, also we fight against human trafficking within Nairobi and sometimes also in Dar es Salaam. But in the recent past, there have been a lot of cases of trafficking, child trafficking, and children getting abducted and being trafficked. And recently, we just rescued a child from who has been subjected to child labor. So I was wondering, because the cases seems to be growing and growing, and sometimes even there are cases that are being reported, there are a lot of missing children around. So we are kind of fighting, but we wonder whether the government is also collaborating with the civil societies in the fight. But we look forward maybe in the near future that the government will just collaborate with us in this fight, because it's getting more and more. Because sometimes we even wonder whether we are alone, we civil societies are alone, or working together with other stakeholders, because sometimes we hear children have been transported from kind of a town, mostly street kids, and they are just miraculously getting lost. They have been transported, but they are getting lost. So their destination is nowhere to be known. That's why we are still in that kind of not knowing what is going on, but we are still fighting against that, and for the rights of the children, and also the gender as well, mostly women. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget, for that intervention. And I think the collaboration with the governments in the countries where both the voices reside, or in general as civil society, depends on the country context. But it would be good to receive more information from your organization. Maybe you can share in the chat how we can contact you, so we can contact you and follow up to see what we can do in collaboration with each other. I'm looking at the time also. I want to circle back to the finalists of the 2021 edition, and maybe ask Azil first question. Azil, how do you see your participation in this campaign benefiting your work? I mean, and what do you do next on furthering the Agenda 2030, and in particular Goal 16, in your context of the work that you do in Palestine?
Hello all. That's a great question. And what I can tell you is, Peter, that in ILF, we expand our role. We are not only representing clients in court. We try to provide comprehensive representation. This means we take it case by case. We see, for example, if we represent a child, what this child is going to need. Maybe this child needs to be referred to educational centers. Maybe he needs to be referred to mental centers. So we study the case. We look at the humanitarian side of the case. We have great defense lawyers who represent who represent our clients in court. They help ensure, they help the government to highlight what is needed in the criminal justice system. For example, in Palestine, we are not familiar much of comprehensive representation. And this is what our ILF lawyers are trying to expand the knowledge in the judicial system here. We have several meetings with prosecutors, police, Ministry of Justice, for example. We try to inform them that in a case, we are not only need to provide legal representation, we need to go beyond that, because we need to help the child, for example, or a woman, for her or for him not to return to the criminal justice system. Because our role is not only by having a case and have a good result, for example. or highlight to the judge that this child is poor, or this child commit this crime because he is out of resources. We need to tell the judge that this child needs help not only in court. Maybe we need to provide him education. Maybe we need to provide him with other, to send him to other educational centers, for example. We need to help the child, to help women, for them not to return to the criminal justice system. And by this, by providing this help, by providing awareness in our community and in our society and in our judicial system, this awareness will help us to expand and have a networking with others to provide the help that we can for our clients. Thank you.
Thank you, Azil, and best of luck with your work as you continue. I would like to move on to Cameroon and go back to LMG, who stepped in for Justine. Similar question to you, LMG. How do you see next steps for your organization in Cameroon? What is happening next on your agenda?
Well, thank you so much. And I'd like to reiterate here that we have 6 priority areas of intervention in Cameroon to carry out activities, and amongst all others, and security is a priority, and it cuts across all other areas of intervention. And looking forward, we know that COVID-19 is a big challenge to us, as well as the Anglophone crisis. But we will not relent our efforts and to put all the resources that are required to continue the localization process, putting women and youth and all other vulnerable at the spotlight of these processes. And we'll continue to build the capacities of youth, especially because they are the future of the next generation. We'll build the capacities in income generating activities as alternative to violence. So women, youth, and the most vulnerable are the spotlight of localizing SDG16+ on peace, justice, and strong institutions in Cameroon. Thank you.
Thank you, and best of luck to WAA with the work that you do in Cameroon. Now over to Free Press United. Leon, can I ask you a similar question? How do you see next steps for your organization's work on SDG16?
There's basically 2 things that we're working on. One is related to the COVID-19 pandemic. We're currently in discussion with the European Union to continue our support for journalists in sub-Saharan Africa. We think it's really important because unfortunately, from Western Europe, people have been looking inward. And I think that we're in a global crisis, and there's been not enough attention to what is happening in other parts of the world, and unfortunately in Europe, in my view. So we try to stress and bring those situations also to the decision makers here. And the second is that we've been working with the group of Friends of Safety of Journalists to do more work on this important reporting work that is being done by civil society. And next year is the 10-year anniversary of the UN Plan of Action for Journalist Safety. We expect that the UN General Assembly is going to produce a new statement in September. So that is for us a very important point, and we hope to get really more traction to ensure that people have access to quality information. And what I have to offer to you is that we will continue to put all the energy we have into making sure that this also benefits all your societies, and hope for the best.
Thank you, Leon, and best of luck with that. And please do stay connected with the Voices alumni as well. Final finalist, which I want to give the floor to, is Ajmal. Closing remarks from your end. What's happening next for APT?
Thank you so much, Mr. Peter. It's glad to hear from everyone. So for us, next step is to advocate for the inclusion of more youths and women in the Afghan peace negotiation, especially to connect with the civil society organization around the globe, to connect with policymakers, to connect with organizations who are with the countries, those who are gone through the same context where the Afghanistan is now. So we know that the youths should be more included, the youth should be more trained, and then we will be continuing our work with the young people and with the help of other organizations, with the help of government, with the help of the international community. We will push the negotiation team to include more youths. We know that with the acquired skill, youths will be able to exchange, communicate, and cooperate peacefully across social and cultural boundaries. And they will be meaningfully engaged in civic engagements. But unfortunately, in the current situation where there is war, where there is COVID pandemic, every day we lost around 80 to 100 people due to pandemic, due to coronavirus. So we will ensure that to see that our Afghan people, our youth should not be immigrant to the other countries, because they have gained so much in Afghanistan, but unfortunately due to instability and security situation, they are going out of Afghanistan. But unfortunately, this is not the way. So we will continue our work for a peaceful, just, and inclusive society. Thank you.
Thank you, Ismail, and best of luck with that. And we stand ready, as I said, to continue partnering with you. Before handing back to Kasia, allow me to briefly mention something that a number of civil society organizations have launched in the context of this HLPF, and which addresses also some of the concerns that have been expressed in this meeting about civil society not sufficiently being heard, or the issues not being brought sufficiently to the attention of member states. Together with the TAP network, GPAC, and NAMATI, the Civil Society Platform for Peace Building and State Building has spearheaded the second edition, the 2021 edition of the Rome Civil Society Declaration on SDG16+. In this declaration, we call for strengthening commitments, greater partnership, and accelerated action for SDG16+. And allow me to call upon all of you to actually look at this declaration and see whether your organization would want to endorse it. To date, we are over 200 endorsements and still growing, but I hope that you will consider endorsing that declaration as an organization and share our call for indeed greater involvement of civil society and accelerated action on the commitments made on SDG16+. With that advertisement, so to say, I said the link is in the chat. I hand back over to Kasia, and for me, thanks everybody for attending. Kasia, over to you for final words.
Thank you so much, Peter. It has been such an insightful couple of hours, and I really hope that this discussion has been just as enriching to all of you. Speaking as a member of Gen Z, I know that we're currently faced with overlapping existential threats, some of which we've touched on today, like climate crisis, the increasing threat of nuclear war, fragile democracies, and pandemics, combined with the existing exclusion of women, youth, and most marginalized populations from decision-making spaces. But it's clear now that now more than ever, we need to hear the voices of those who are positively contributing to peaceful and inclusive societies, ensuring no one is left behind. These stories give us the hope that we need to work through these seemingly insurmountable challenges. And the stories that we've heard today can guide us to work together to continue strengthening and advancing the SDG16+. Peace is a priority for all of us here. And so with that said, I want to thank all the program partners who have made this campaign possible, and thank and congratulate all the voices of the SDG16+ who have shared their stories with us today. I also want to highlight that you can share their stories and videos through social media, which can be found on the Voices of the SDG16 website. So with that said, thank you all so much for joining us today, and I'm wishing you safe year ahead, and we hope to see you at the next Voices of the SDG16 campaign session.
Thank you, Kasia, for co-moderating, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you very much.